Roy Heischman.
Heischman.
Good German name. Well, this is my second Telecaster. The first one I bought in the mid-50s. I played in probably the first rock and roll band that was in this area. Then we got drafted, about 3 or 4 of us. We had to split that band up. And I sold that guitar right before I went into service. And then after I got out of the service, I kind of got the itch to get the guitar back. And so I did a little research, and I found this one in the 60s. And so I went and bought that. It had never been used very much because I didn't play in a band or anything anymore, just a few little musical jigs with a preacher we had that played a banjo. But basically, that's where the guitar came from. I bought it new. Of course, I had kind of curious about age and so forth and so on. I never could really get a good, honest appraisal or definition until I ran into you guys. Mm-hmm.
Every vintage guitar that ever existed is now owned by Norm's Rare Guitars or Gruen Guitars or Carter Vintage, right? That's what you hear all the time, and I need to tell you, you need to hear, and you need to accept that it's nonsense. Roy came in and he had a black Tolex case with a Fender logo on it, and I immediately recognized it. That's a case from the late 1960s. I know because I have one on my pink Paisley Telly, which it's this guitar. I'll make a video about it this week, probably. This is a 1968 Fender Telecaster, and it is really cool and really good, and it will be for sale, so buckle in, I'll tell you the whole story. So this guitar showed up yesterday. He opened the case, and the first thing that Roy did was he showed us these pictures. And so this is the King Bees. And so this is Ralph Sampson Sr. From my hometown. Ralph Sampson, well, I am from his hometown. Ralph Sampson was an NBA player. He was really popular. Ralph Sampson Sr., so his dad played in this band here in Harrisonburg, and so this is him playing sax, and then behind him is Roy here playing a 1955 Telecaster. And this was his... Roy had 2 guitars. This was his backup, and so his main guitar was a 1955 Telecaster. Now that one is gone, and he mentioned that there was an amp. I'm pretty sure it was a Tweed Harvard, and so he said that both of those are long gone. They've been gone since the 1950s. But this was the one that has been his second guitar. Now, he played in a band through the 1950s, and then the draft broke up their band. And it's a thing that is just, if you're in your 30s like me, the draft is a far-off memory that you heard of from other people, but I feel like I got it in a way I hadn't understood it before. That the progress in Roy's life was changed and shifted. Now, he's very thankful. He was wearing an Air Force hat. Like, I know that he is very thankful for his service. I'm thankful for his service, but it is really poignant to realize how much servicemen and women have sacrificed. So his band had to break up because of this, and to take care of some things, I think he ended up selling that Telecaster. So that's why when he came back, he bought, because he wanted to play guitar again and he wanted to be in a band. So he bought this guitar, brand new. Where did he say? It was here I think it was in Charlottesville or Lynchburg or Roanoke. It was one of the cities kind of in the western side of Virginia. He bought this guitar new in 1967 or 1968, and he's had it ever since. He said he barely ever played it. It is in such minty clean condition. Now, it is not without issues. There are a couple little chips in the polyurethane, and that's one of the big things. This is a poly finish. It's not a nitro finish, but it has a lot of 1967 stuff. So the first thing I did when I got this guitar was just look at it, and I called a friend. And if you know me, you probably can guess who that friend is. I called John Schultz with True Vintage Guitar. He's an amazing friend, and he is also brilliant with vintage guitars, particularly Fenders. And so immediately he asked me a couple questions that helped us both kind of narrow in exactly on what this is, what year it's from, and what are some features and details. So let's start from the logo. So this, while the pots inside do say that this is a 1968, this is an older 1967 logo. Now it does have a nylon washer back behind the string tree, and then it does have the later 1968 kind of the Fender F logo tuners. But there's a lot of 67 stuff, some 68 stuff, and so we didn't pull the neck joint because after that we then looked in the control pot and we looked at the pots. And I dated the pot codes, and two important things about the pots. Number one, there's an added ground to the bridge pickup. I think, you know, guys thinking that guitars were buzzy may have added that bridge and it probably didn't do anything. But to me, it doesn't affect the value. Now, John is amazingly particular, and he's many things. He's excellent, he's brilliant, and he's also very particular. And that's what makes him so excellent and so brilliant. And so for John, that's a thing that psyched him out a bit. But it's all original inside. The two pots both date to 1967. It's a three-way switch. It doesn't have the dart cap on the neck pickup, which is, I mean, if you know this kind of guitar, it makes it super usable, where the old one was so thumpy and so muddy that it really wasn't that useful in a modern playing context. That caught my attention is just how absolutely stunning this neck is, particularly this bird's eye in the back of the maple neck. It is beautiful. I mean, this is better than the custom shop now, and you have to think in 1968 this was just a Telecaster. This was just a pretty bog standard made by CBS Telecaster, and it still is just excellent materials. Now the next thing I looked for is I wanted to see the fingerboard itself on this guitar, and it is dark. It looks like Brazilian rosewood on the board, and it is a veneer board, which means when you look at the end of the neck here, it's very thin and it's curved. I then flipped it around, and this is one of the first things we did, is look at the serial number itself. So the serial number is 246321, which puts it right in 68. And so John is kind of amazing too. John, as I told him the number, he knew without looking. Also, when I Googled Fender serial numbers, his website's the first one to come out. I'll tag all of his stuff down below. It's a huge value shift, is that this is a poly finish on the body, and this is not. It's poly and chrome instead of being nickel hardware and nitrocellulose lacquer on the body. Now, not the end of the world, but this is an Olympic white. This is not blonde. This is white, and the main difference between those two is that blonde would be translucent, so you'd be able to see the wood grain through it, and it would be an ash body more than likely. And so this is an alder body, and it is an opaque finish, and so this is Olympic white, and which to me I think is cooler. It's kind of faded into this cool kind of banana color. Now, Roy asked me to buy this guitar, and he wants an amount of money that I did not have on hand. While this was happening, somebody in the shop was trying to poach this deal, which is we can talk about that later on. I offered a number, and there's a guy standing there who, I love it. I'm glad that there's a community of people that love this kind of guitar and know what it is and know what it's worth. And this guy, like, he heard my number and then offered $500 more. And Roy, it definitely seemed like Roy felt uncomfortable with that, as he should, because that guy, I mean, it's just a misstep in the process. Like, don't poach stuff in a guitar store. You can meet him in the parking lot. That's a public space. Well, it's not technically a public space, but we ended up coming to a deal on consignment. So we both think that he can get more money than I can offer him. The guitar will be for sale. It's going to be for sale on the Hometown Music website, which is hometownmusic.net. That's the new shop that I'm the manager, and more content's going to come out about this. But that is the very brief update on this unbelievably cool guitar. And thank you to Roy for keeping this guitar so clean, so tidy. Thanks for letting us sell it. Thanks for letting me play it. And I am just so thankful. Now, you did hear this guitar. These are the strings. They're not original, obviously, but he said he has not changed the strings since the early 90s. So these strings are 30 years old. And man, still sounds excellent.